Hey everyone! In this video, I'm going to show you how to make an amazingly delicious saffron and quince mousse cake without a gram of sugar. This beautiful, sugar-free entremet is the perfect treat for late fall. I'm also going to share with you 2 mistakes I made, how to fix one, how to live with the other, and most importantly, how to prevent them. So let's do this! Here I have 1.5 kilograms of fresh quinces that a dear friend gifted to me. I've washed them very well and removed the fuzzy coating that quinces have. Because quinces are very prone to going bad and they're also very hard fruit, I prefer to quarter them. That makes it very easy to remove the core. Cut away the core and anything else that doesn't look good. It's very important not to remove the skin of the fruit, just clean it very well. That's where most of its aroma is locked in. If you ask me, cleaning and cutting the quinces is the most difficult part of making this cake. Now cut these larger pieces into smaller ones and get them into a pot. Fill it with water so that the quinces are covered. Take the pot to the stove and bring the quinces to a full boil. You need to boil the quinces for 30 minutes, and every now and then push them down into the water because they have a tendency to rise up. And look how nicely soft the quince pieces are after half an hour. Turn off the flame and remove the pot from the stove. Remove the boiling hot quince pieces to a heat-proof bowl without adding any of the water. But do not throw away the water. Let it cool down to room temperature and then enjoy it. It's gonna taste fantastic. Blend the hot quince pieces into a smooth puree. And while I do this, hit that subscribe button. Thank you. And after a minute or two, this is exactly the consistency you're gonna get. And I'm sure my cat approves. Give the puree a tiny break just to squeeze 10 grams of fresh lemon juice. The lemon juice is here to prevent this beautiful quince puree from oxidizing. Blend the puree again for another minute or so, and then give the blender a break. Take a silicone spatula to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. And then give it a stir. If there are any larger quince pieces, you'll see them. If the puree is smooth, cover it with plastic wrap directly on the surface and then let it sit at room temperature until it cools down. Then refrigerate it. To flavor and color my sugar-free Madeleine, I'm relying on some saffron threads. This is the world's most expensive spice and an excellent pairing for quince. But if you can find it cheap, don't buy it. It's most likely fake. Put some saffron threads into a mortar and then crush them into a fine powder with a pestle. Add the saffron powder to 50 grams of cake flour, a gram of baking powder, and a tiny pinch of salt. Use a small whisk to bring the dry ingredients together. Set the flour mixture aside for now and crack a room temperature egg into a large bowl. With a hand mixer, beat the egg on a low speed until it frothens up a bit. This takes half a minute or so. Now add 35 grams of xylitol and beat on high speed until the egg more than doubles its volume and becomes a very pale yellow. It should hold the ribbon. Now reduce the speed of the mixer to a minimum and very slowly pour in 10 grams of olive oil. The olive oil is here to keep the Madeleine from drying out, but it won't make it too moist either. Now increase the speed of the mixer again and start adding the flour. Do it gradually to avoid lumps. Add some flour, mix it in for a few seconds and then add some more. It's very important that you move fast and that you don't overmix here. After adding all the flour, stop the mixer and take a silicone spatula to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. This way you'll also incorporate whatever flour was left. It's enough to give the batter a few folds. Don't overmix. Add some batter to 30 grams of melted butter. The butter shouldn't be hot. It's best if it's ever so slightly warm. Use a small whisk to mix the batter into the butter. And now pour this mix over your spatula into the Madeleine batter. And this way, the Madeleine batter won't deflate. Fold briefly just until the mixture is homogeneous. Again, it's very important not to overmix. Pour this precious Madeleine batter into an 18 cm silicone mold. If you don't have one, use a springform pan or a cake ring, just make sure they're greased and dusted with flour. To spread the Madeleine into an even layer and remove the bigger air bubbles, tap the mold against your work surface a couple of times. Bake the cake for 20 minutes at 150 Celsius in a preheated oven, and then let it cool down to room temperature in the mold. As it cools down, it pulls away from the sides of the mold and shrinks a little. That's to be expected. Cover the mold with a serving platter and flip it. The cake will simply fall onto it. Now simply lift the mold away, and there it is, in one piece, perfectly round. Now use a 16 cm cake ring to cut out the center of the cake. I'm doing this because I want perfectly aligned layers inside my entremet. As you remove the outer edge, you'll see how flexible the cake is. Now simply hold the cake in place with your hand and with the other one, pull away the ring. You're gonna have to flip it once again because what we want inside the cake is that super even surface, and that's the bottom of the cake. Now take a 16 cm silicone mold and carefully place it over the Madeleine. Flip the cake once again. The perfectly even surface will face you now, and that's it. No more flipping. Very gently push the Madeleine down so there aren't any air pockets, and then use a wet napkin to wipe the sides of the mold clean. I mean the inner sides, and that's just to remove the crumbs. Let it sit like this on the counter until we make the Quince Confit. And the Quince Confit starts with 20 grams of xylitol and 4 grams of cornstarch. In my pot I have 150 grams of Quince Puree, and to it I'm adding 10 grams of lemon juice. The flame should be on the smallest setting. Stir gently to incorporate the juice into the puree. It won't liquefy it. By now, the Quince Puree is slightly warm and it's the perfect time to add the dry ingredients. Stir continuously. Once it starts boiling, stir vigorously and continuously for 3 minutes, and then cut the heat, but keep stirring for a little while. You don't want it to stick to the pot. Immediately pour the Quince Confit over the Madeleine and make sure you scrape the sides and bottom of the pot so you don't leave anything in. Level it with your silicone spatula at first, and then take a small offset spatula to level it as best as you can. It won't be perfectly flat because it has a very thick consistency. This step helps to remove any trapped air, and it gives you 2 even layers inside your mousse cake. Refrigerate the inserts for 1 hour and then freeze them for 4 hours. For the saffron and quince mousse, we're gonna need 3 gelatin sheets, hydrated in ice cold water. It's always a good idea to put the gelatin sheets in the water one by one. This way they won't stick to each other. To give the mousse a beautiful color and an exquisite aroma that complements the quinces perfectly, I'm using more saffron threads. How many you can pick with 2 fingers are enough. Use the pestle to crush them into a fine powder. And then add this powder to 70 grams of xylitol. Use a small whisk to mix the saffron into the sweetener. And now add the dry ingredients to 100 grams of whipping cream. The saffron powder particles are evenly distributed among the xylitol crystals, and this helps to disperse them evenly throughout the cream. Look at the color change, even in cold cream. Both the color and the aroma intensify as you heat it, so take the cream to the microwave and heat it up in several intervals until you reach a temperature of approximately 80 degrees Celsius. Stir well after each interval and keep them short. You don't want to boil the cream. 80 degrees is enough. In a separate bowl, whip 250 grams of very cold whipping cream to a very soft peak. Since it's a very small amount of cream, I prefer to do it by hand. This way I can control the consistency better. And this is exactly what I mean. The cream has to remain pourable. And now add 200 grams of cold quince puree to the soft cream and mix it in. There's no need to whip right now, just mix. The resulting cream is quite thick, and that's to be expected, don't worry. As always, after you mix something with a whisk, you have to finish off with a spatula, just to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl, and this way ensure that the mixture is homogeneous. By now, the saffron cream has a temperature of approximately 60 degrees Celsius. And this is the ideal time to add the hydrated gelatin. Stir it in until it dissolves completely and then add a generous dollop of quince cream. Mix this in with the whisk without creating any air bubbles. If the bowl is still warm to touch, add another dollop of quince cream. The point in this is to cool the saffron cream down to body temperature so you can add it to the quince cream. Otherwise, your mousse would turn into a soup. When the saffron cream is at body temperature, it's safe to add it to the quince cream. Mix with the whisk without incorporating any air. And before you know it, the mixture turns into a beautiful, pourable quince mousse. Finish off with the silicone spatula to scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. Remember those two mistakes I was telling you about at the beginning? You're about to see the first. The one we can fix. I have an 18 cm silicone mold ready, and the inserts are out of the freezer as well. Now, by weight, my ingredients would fit perfectly into the chosen mold. But what I overlooked was the increased volume of the whipped cream. Look how beautiful that mousse is. But there's simply too much of it. Too much for this mold. I would have needed a taller one. So the easy fix is to remove some of the mousse. However, this miscalculation results in more pleasure for you. That mousse will set faster and you can enjoy it before you can actually serve the entremet. Gently push the mousse against the walls of the mold to avoid any air bubbles on the sides. And now remove the frozen inserts from the smaller mold. You can make these cakes with cake rings and acetate sheet, but with silicone molds it's a lot easier. Now very carefully place the frozen inserts with the Madeleine facing you in the center of the mousse. And with a very steady hand, slowly push them down, turning clockwise. And as you can see, there's still too much mousse in the mold, so I have to remove it with a small offset spatula. Clean the sides of the mold with a damp napkin and freeze the entremet for at least 8 hours. To make the neutral glaze, we're gonna need 6 gelatin sheets hydrated in ice cold water. To make sure they hydrate properly and don't stick together, put them in the water one after the other. In my pot, I have 150 grams of glucose syrup, 50 grams of xylitol, and 200 grams of water. To avoid the glazing disaster that I'm about to head into, use the measurements in the brackets and read the recipe in the description below. And now add 10 grams of lemon juice. However, it would be better to add it after you turn off the heat. After the syrup boils for 2 minutes, remove the lemon foam from the surface. And now, the liquid needs to cool down to 60 degrees Celsius before you can add the gelatin. Squeeze out the excess water from the gelatin sheets and add them to the warm liquid. Stir gently with a silicone spatula without incorporating any more air. Now pour the warm glaze into a cup that makes it easy for you to pour from. The next step is very important. Blend the glaze for a minute. Blending stabilizes any glaze, even a faulty one like this one. Carefully remove the blender at an angle to avoid creating any more air. Then cover the glaze with plastic wrap directly on the surface and let it cool down. Once cool, it's best if you refrigerate it for a couple of hours and then reheat it. But I had to play with pastry science fire and skip that step. When the glaze is at 32 degrees Celsius, it's ready to use. Now that the temperature of the glaze is right, it's time to take the entremet out of the freezer and out of its mold. Gently pull away at the sides of the mold and then simply peel it off the cake. Carefully place the frozen saffron and quince mousse cake on an inverted bowl that sits on a large plate. Pour the glaze in a steady flow starting from the center of the cake and then move your way outwards. If you were to pour it too fast, the layer would simply be too thin. But even though my technique is right, my glaze simply isn't. There aren't enough solids in it and there's too much water. And I didn't let it set in the fridge before using it. At first, it looks okay, but as it sets, the surface turns dull. And that's the worst nightmare, after putting so much work into an entremet, to ruin it at the very end. Remove the set glaze drippings with a small knife, and then let's move the cake onto its serving platter. And for that, I'm using 2 large offset spatulas. Carefully lift the cake from the bowl and move it to the serving platter. Place it on the platter at a slight angle. Now slowly pull away the spatulas alternatively. And now you can see what I mean about the surface of the cake going dull. The saffron and quince mousse cake needs 6 hours in the fridge to thaw. And after 6 hours in the fridge, here's the glazing disaster, in all its undesired glory. In the hopes of improving the situation a little, I decided to decorate it with dry marigold petals and small saffron threads. And while this isn't my most beautiful creation, what it lacks in beauty, it certainly compensates in taste. And now, let's take a look on how it looks on the inside. Wipe the knife clean between cuts. Now look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's why all those extra steps are so necessary. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And tell me in the comments below what you'd like to see next. Until next time, dessert lovers,